Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I am the style coach. If you're new here, you're most welcome. This channel is all about personal style and building your confidence around that. Of course, welcome back to all the regulars as well. Always good to see you here. You'll also find me over on Instagram as well. And if you like this video, you might want to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you would like to support the channel in a different kind of a way, you can do so by doing super thanks. And for the price of a coffee, you can keep this channel going. Today's video comes in as a request based off of some recent videos I did around colour analysis and eye patterns, and it was so interesting to hear all of your feedback on that. I didn't realise how common it was that people's eye colour changes throughout life. It can change anyway, not for everybody, but fascinating to know that it's far more common than I thought it was. So thank you for sharing that information. Today's video is all about freckles, so I'm also looking for your input on that. And specifically, we want to be talking about, well, how does having freckles impact a colour analysis, if at all? So we'll definitely get into that today. If you would like to work with me one-to-one on your own personal style development, you can do so by getting in touch. And of course, you can also join my online courses, which are listed down below. I work with people in person and all over the world online. So don't let that be a barrier to you developing your personal style. Let's get going with today's video. So I was doing a little bit of research about freckles, and there's some schools of thought around the idea that freckles can be inherited from your DNA, which in other words means that it's not necessarily all down to sun damage. But of course, the sun, being exposed to the sun, can increase the pigment in the skin, the melanin in the skin. And so you might find that maybe during the summer months when you're out in the sun a little bit more, that you notice that you get a little bit more freckling, just like myself, when you are exposed to sun. There are also people who may never have had freckles throughout their life, but as they go through life and maybe at later stages in their life, they might find that they get not quite freckles, but brown pigmentation or darker pigmentation on their skin, sometimes known as sunspots, sometimes known as liver spots. And these can all affect how we see the skin and how our colours might interact with our skin. So no matter what your skin tone, whether you have lighter skin or darker skin, you can have freckling. And of course, you can have freckles from when you're a child, or you might grow into them, in which that was my case. As a child, I had quite clear skin, if you want to use that word, or at least no freckles on the skin. But as I got older, definitely freckles began to appear. Now, what we must understand here is what part of the skin that freckles affect. So it is the surface level of the skin that is changing. We can see it quite obviously. We don't have to be specially trained for us to see this change happening in our skin. We can spend a couple of hours out in the sun and we will see that change in our skin, whether it's more freckling or maybe we tan or we burn. We see that change in the skin, and we also see it, our skin changing from when we're a child to when we are a little bit older as an adult. So the thing to note here is that this is your skin tone. And if we are trying to identify whether somebody's on the cool side or the warm side, it is not the skin tone that we look at. This is something I stress when I work with people in person or online. When I'm doing a colour consultation, I often hear people saying, oh, well, it's the summer now, I have a bit of a tan. Is that going to affect my skin? Or, I have a little bit of rosacea, or my skin is quite freckly at the moment. How is that going to affect the consultation? And the reality is, this is the surface level of the skin changing. It is not your undertone, and it is your undertone that shows me whether you are on the warm side or the cool side. So whether you have freckles or other things happening on the surface level of the skin does not impact whether you have cool or warm undertones. It can cause some confusion, I think, to people who are not trained in colour analysis, and perhaps people who are new to colour analysis, who are doing consultations and maybe they haven't had a lot of experience. When you have freckles on the skin, and let's say you hold up a warmer type of drape, I've just grabbed this coral drape from spring. A warmer color will tend to pick up on the freckles on the face, the darker pigmentation, and make these the emphasis. And it will certainly highlight them. Then the colour consultant, if they're not that experienced, or just an individual who's trying to do this themselves, self-analyze, may feel like, oh, that intensifies my freckles, therefore I'm warm, because they see that change in the skin. That is not necessarily the case. Again, I stress that we're not trying to connect with the surface levels of the skin. We are trying to get to the undertone of the skin. So it's almost like, as a colour consultant, we have to kind of peel away in our imagination that first layer of the skin and see beyond it to get the deeper information that comes from the undertone. And that takes training and it takes experience in a lot of cases. I don't think the basic training is enough for somebody to go out there and get the correct results every single time. I think experience on a wide range of skin tones is going to be far more valuable than doing a week of training, for example, no matter how good the training is. So when I'm draping a person, I am looking to see beyond the freckles. So they may appear to be intensified in some cases, but that does not mean that that person is warm undertoned. Let's just talk about age spots for a moment. In my experience, when I see, let's say, an older person coming in and you know, their skin has seen a few years in the sun perhaps, and they have age spots, not quite the same as freckles, but, you know, darkening in patches of the skin. People who have age spots or liver spots will often get mistyped as well. Again, it's about those warmer colours pulling out surface tones in the skin. It doesn't mean that they're on the warm side. They could be cool, and this is where you need to have an experienced eye, not just a trained eye, but an experienced eye in order to get the right typing. Now, can it be the case that a cool person has freckles? This was often something that I heard in my early days of colour consulting, that if you have freckles, well, then you're most likely on the warm side. And if you don't have freckles, then you're on the cool side. And again, this is something with experience I have realized is rubbish. It is nonsense, again, to have this fixed way of thinking and just categorizing people based on purely what they look like and not actually doing the draping. I always say, let the colors do the talking. So looking at a person will give you a small amount of information. It won't give you everything, and it certainly won't give you enough to completely type a person into a season or indeed a sub-season. A cool person can, of course, have freckles, and I think it's probably one of the reasons why a lot of cool undertone people get misplaced and put into a warmer category, because they have freckles. I have freckles. As I mentioned, as a kid, I didn't have, you know, I had quite clear skin. As I got older, freckles came through. As I go out in the sun, they come through even more. Nonetheless, no matter if my surface level of the skin changes, whether that's a tan or more freckling, my undertone is still cool. That does not change. And can a warm undertone person have freckles? Yes, of course they can, but just as likely to have no freckling, and they can still have warm undertones. Let me know your experience of freckles. I'd love to hear a little bit more, and it's so fascinating because I know there's lots of people listening into these videos around the world, so we have this really broad range of knowledge that comes in, which is really appreciated. So do share in the comments below. That's it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it and learned something new, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care. Bye bye.